Every kid has a great story to tell. Have one? Well, we're listening. Send your best story to the New Indian Express's Bookworm Junior Summer Stories Contest and you could just end up becoming an author over the summer. What are you waiting for? Get writing.
Hindustan Institute of Technology and Science. Take your first step toward a future in excellence.
Hello and welcome. This is the New Indian Express's Let's Debate, done in conjunction with Edex Works and edexlive.com. We're super thrilled to be bringing to you a conversation, a debate, if you will, with some of India's youngest and finest minds, where we're going to try and put dignity, decency and decorum back into the art of debate. Yes, that's something that's been missing for a while, but hey, if you can't start young, I don't see when we're going to do it. Today we're super excited to have with us kids from over 10 different schools from all across the country, and they're going to be talking about the motion, which is Indian history should be made a compulsory topic from grade 1. That's right, that's the motion, that's what they're going to be arguing for and against. And today we have two very special judges with us. Joining us is Purnima Laxmeshwar. Purnima is a poet who resides in Bangalore, and her poems have appeared in Kritya, Muse India, Review of Literature, the Stockholm Review of Literature, I beg your pardon, and a whole host of other magazines. She's very, very well read, she's a great public speaker, and we're super thrilled to have us with us. Thank you, Purnima, for joining us. Joining us from within the New Indian Express, we have Paulami Sen, who's a principal correspondent. She's based with the New Indian Express in Hyderabad. She works with our lifestyle supplement Indulge. She's worked with a host of newspapers across the country, and she runs her own startup called the Make Your Desire, which is TNIE, which is promoting body positive choices in apparel and skincare. Thank you, Paulami, for being with us. So, to kick things off today, let's dive straight into it. Indian history should be made a compulsory subject from grade 1. Do you agree or not? Well, agreeing with that motion will be Shloka Singh. Shloka, stage is all yours. You will see Rashmi ping and the time run there, so you know when you need to stop. You've got 4 minutes on the clock. You'll hear a little ping at 3 minutes, so you know you've got a minute to wrap up. Alright, Shloka, if you're good to go, floor is all yours.
Yes, sir. George Satyanam once said, "Those who don't know the past are condemned to repeat it." And I think those are a few really nice words said. Good evening, judges and other participants. My name is Shloka Singh, and today I'll be speaking for the motion History Should Be a Compulsory Subject for First Graders. Brilliant people and their heroic acts have changed the shape of nation. You get a huge amount of motivation from learning about the inspirational events that make up where we are today. It only takes one great story to make up a child's imagination about what happened. History is full of stories. Some are inspiring and uplift, others are not. History tells us who we are. History is a story of past happenings, events and transformations. It is a depiction of what happened in the years since the formation of human race. We should study history to understand our existence. It helps us understand who we are, where our ancestors came from, what is the society and culture that they lived in, what is that we have inherited from them, what is that we have to do to be like them. It helps us understand everything about the past. History helps us understand about our culture. Ladies and gentlemen, history is a deep rooted knowledge and study of the past. Given its vastness and diversity that it covers, we can know almost everything that happened in the past, then demographic any part of the world. We can learn the types of cultures and traditions people followed, as well as their way of living. All cultures that we know of today have their roots in the cultures of the past. As I said it, earlier, the quote was, history repeats itself. Yes, that's a very true line, ladies and gentlemen. History repeats itself. The most important and the biggest reason to study history is because history repeats itself. It is important to read and learn about others' mistakes in the past so that we do not commit the same mistakes in the future. It is very important to repeat the kind of things that we have not really helped in the world, but only added a misery and mankind. It is believed that those who cannot learn from history are doomed to repeat it. We should learn from the mistakes made from people, and so that we don't suffer the way they did. Learn from past mistakes. Those who do not remember the past are condemned to repeat it. Perhaps it should be written in every school board, and teachers should explain that this is one of the main reasons why history is worth studying. We always learn from our mistakes as long as we are open to it. Trailer and errors have been at the basic of most success stories in any area you can imagine. That can be either social, economical, or technology. But no matter how open minded you are, you cannot make all the mistakes in the world all by yourself, or at least we don't recommend it. History allows you to learn from all the errors, big and small, made by other people from the past. It also shows that good intentions don't necessarily equally good outcome. History helps us discover new level of appreciation of just about everything. History is more than just living about the nation, wars, and leaders. It also gives us stories. It makes us inspire what we have. It makes us freedom we have today. If we didn't knew what happened, why we won't be that grateful about it, and it helps us relate to life circumstances. Plus, history is just plain interesting. Everything you like about your favorite movies, television shows, and fictional novels is your experience. History should be studied by everyone as it helps us understand about what it helps us relate to the life we have today, and it makes us grateful for what happened. And that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shloka. That was very enlightening. Our next speaker, who's going to be speaking against the motion, opening the defense in that context, is Shrugal Bhattacharjee. Shrugal, if you're ready to go, the floor is yours as soon as you hear the ding.
Good evening, friends and judges. Thank you for having me here. Why is it important to study history at all from an early age, when we all know that history might be a little interesting, but it's really not useful at all? I still can't remember anyone ever telling me that history is important to understand, and not just about memorizing dates, names, and facts. It sometimes just looks absurd to spend hours merely just thinking about the ways and means that Mughals used to get into India. Instead, if we spent our time studying mathematics, languages, science, or even the arts, we can face the world in a better way. To me, history appears to merely be a burden for young minds. History isn't worth much without interest and astute understanding. It becomes monotonous and boring after a certain stage. It wouldn't be far off from the truth if I could extend George Santayana's quote by saying that those who cannot understand the past are condemned to repeat it. Understanding history is far more important than just knowing history. And it is really for this reason why I don't think that history should be taught right from the first grade. Because at that time, children are just merely toddlers. They don't know or understand the significance of World War I or World War II, and this might actually make them think that history is boring, and when they are say 15 or 16 years old, uh, he repulse against history. So really, it's not just enough to know about Hitler. We need to understand how Hitler rose to power and how he was able to cause such destruction if we hope to avoid a future recurrence, which is the basic purpose of history. The biggest of the disadvantages of written history can be summed up by Churchill's words: history is written by the victors. History is composed of facts, but facts do not speak for themselves. The interpreter speaks and presents the facts. It is the reader, and therefore the interpreter of history, who ascribes the meaning in order to adapt these facts to the story he or she wants to tell from their perspective. The only way I feel in which history can reliably be employed is if people could travel back in time and objectively witness events. However, this is unfortunately not true. And the only way in which historians can do so, just like chemistry running an experiment, is using their minds as their laboratories. It is the historian who decides which facts to give the flow to, and in what order or context. One can say that to a certain degree, the use of history is restricted to the historian who interprets it. History often is therefore a man made tool that takes its shape according to the historian's perception and obligations. If we insist on using stuffy, old textbooks that bore kids, history isn't going to be important until they are much, much older. At which stage they might even not feel that history is interesting. They might feel that history is very, very boring. Finally, I would like to sum up by saying that the only way in which history can redeem itself is not by teaching itself to students who are really very, very young. It is by teaching students who are able to uh, understand, ex- understand teaching history excitingly. But today's methods of teaching history need serious introspection and change to suit today's times. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shrugal. I think that really went to the heart of the argument. Our next speaker who's going to be speaking for the motion, let me invite Anusha Desai. Anusha, the floor is yours.
So, according to me, history should be taught as a core topic subject right from standard 1, where the children are interested, they are very curious in studying history, and they can become great historians who will contribute in the nation building process, in my opinion. History is not taught as a boring subject. When it is taught in the form of stories, it is interesting to the children and it won't be boring to them. And when the exams are conducted right from standard 1, if per week at least 15 minutes are given to like learning history, and there won't be any fear of exams and it won't put stress on the child, and instead it will give the child relaxation so they don't repeat the mistakes again. And that's what history is about. We should not repeat the mistakes that are already made. History helps us to learn from the past and not make the mistakes again. History is the way in which we can learn, and in the future we can get great historians. Art is not a subject to be looked down upon, and I've seen this in many cases where they have made these sort of steps where science is first or commerce is second, and arts is always a subject which has been looked looked down upon. So I think the exams, it won't put any tension. Instead, it will give the children confidence, because no one actually thinks that it is important at all. History is not just about learning the names of people. It is also about all the things which are in life. It is about not repeating the mistakes. It is not just about reading the names. You need to just imagine it, what happened in the past. And that is what it is about. So I would like to say that history is not a boring subject as many people think it is. It is in fact an interesting subject which can give us a lot of information about the past. It's not just stories, and it also increases the vocabulary, and it should be given equal importance that other subjects are also given, because it is not given. The children will think, why is the history subject in 6th standard directly, not in 1st standard? Why is it so? And what it is like from 6th standard, why is it so? Because they will think that it is not important. That is why it is from 6th standard, right? And it should be from 1st standard, where the children should also, history should be given equal importance as the other subjects are given. That is what I would like to say.
Thank you so much, Anusha. Some very interesting points there. Let me invite our next speaker, Abhinav Menon.
Show me an adult who says the dates of the Battle of Buxar comes in handy, and I'll show you somebody whose pants are on fire. Except for, of course, history teachers. Please pardon the paraphrasing of the famous quote. Respected judges, members of the voting public, my peers on this panel, I'm here to oppose the motion that Indian history should be made a compulsory course subject from grade 1. We, as Indian students, study history as a course subject from grade 5 or 6. Is there any need to advance it to grade 1? Let me bust some myths about its perceived benefits. Early childhood education is the one-time opportunity to get children excited about education. It sets the tone for the journey forward. Can you imagine what a killjoy like history could do to the young kids? Their idea of what learning is, in my opinion, it will be a reality check too soon. My second argument is that it is not important to understand history and not just learn it. It is not a field of study of absolutes. It will always have gaps. In keeping with the second argument, one realizes that history books present a perspective. Children in grades 5 and above are old enough to look for the alternative perspectives. What happens when the young mind reading it is too young to understand this? We end up presenting one version of events to the young ones. Mark Twain's famous quote is my next argument. The past does not repeat itself, it rhymes. I can't help but wonder, if the past is gone forever, why dwell in it? They are only noises you hear in the present, a broad framework to work with in your present. Is there a need to stretch and dissect it? My last argument is based on the utilitarian aspect of learning history. A very small group of people make use of their learning and make a career out of it. As Gen Z, I ask, why waste good gray cells on something that doesn't come in handy? I hope I have been successful in presenting my 5 arguments about why we should not make Indian history a compulsory course subject from grade 1. History is an incomplete puzzle which limits its use. Thank you.
That was extremely stark, but very, very interesting. Thank you so much, Abhinav. Let me now invite the next speaker who is going to be for the motion, TNIE.
I will be speaking for the motion. History is a multifaceted discipline. It is a combination of science and arts. History is the richest collection of stories. Our country, India, has a rich heritage and is one of the most ancient civilizations of the world. Ancient Indian history believes in the concept of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, hence is known for unity in diversity. There is abundance of knowledge to be learned from the Vedas, Puranas, Upanishads, and the rise and fall of various dynasties. Hence, it should be included in the curriculum. We always believed in the Santanan Dharma, which teaches us to live in close proximity with nature. The beautiful architectures of places of worship teach us and preach the best style of living. Mohenjo-daro and Harappan civilization offers an excellent expertise in town planning, water management, harvesting systems, as well as drainage mechanism and important innovation in weight and measures. History teaches us to develop healthy relations with the neighboring nations through Sam, Dam, Dand, and Bhed, and be heard on the global forum and influence the world's opinion. History provides us with identities and models of good and responsible behaviors. It can expand the understanding of rights and responsibilities of citizens. History is not only a composite of battles and bloodshed, it teaches us to differentiate between good, bad, shows us to live a peaceful and ideal life, yet stand against injustice. The Bhagavad Gita is the world's best philosophical and psychological management guide to accept change with perseverance, dignity, and meditation. It will promote thoughtful, righteous, constructive thinking, cooperation, and appreciate the process of change. History teaches us right to woman equality through the various deities and goddess worship. It gives us the theory of evolution by an example of advanced science like surrogacy, which is now yet an advancing science. History proves that there is a remedy for every disease in nature itself. Various lifestyle diseases can be cured by observing periodic fasts like our ancestors. Yoga is a holistic and integral science of life, dealing with physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health of the individual and society, which is now renowned worldwide. History will awaken awareness, perceptions, and will spark conversations. History will teach tolerance towards faiths, cultures, and ideas. The values taught by studying history are informative, ethical, educational, cultural, and political. It will definitely play a role in the overall grooming. Hence, it should be included in the curriculum. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tanya. That was beautifully articulated. Our next speaker, who will be speaking against the motion and telling us why history should not be included, is Jagriti Goswami. Jagriti, may I invite you to speak, please?
Good evening, everyone. The motion for debate today is that Indian history should be a compulsory course subject from class 1. We're talking about a tender age group of 5 to 6 years old here, with a merely learning to form sentences and to basic arithmetic. This is a time when children are learning to speak. They are learning basic life skills, moral values, and they should be allowed to freely explore and absorb their surroundings, be outdoors and play and learn from their personal interactions with their friends, teachers, parents, and surroundings. Now, some people may argue that if we are teaching things like coding to this age group, then why not a subject like history? Well, I'm not in favor of either, and the country also has a divided opinion about the same. At an age when kids are already grappling with overload of information, adding another mandatory subject will not do any good for them or for the system. It is important to identify the subjects or curriculum that is of prime importance for shaping their future. Today's world and the world of future is highly competitive, and students need to be equipped with the right kind of skills to face the world. Some say that by learning about history and past conflicts, we will be able to improve the present. Well, this is not true according to me. The problems we face today aren't the same ones that we had in the past. If humanity truly improved by learning from their mistakes, we would have no poverty or war in the world. The conflicts in the world now are the testimony that we haven't learned anything from our pasts. Moreover, history as a separate subject does not deal with development of scientific temper. Rather, a subject composite of gory wars, that a subject like history needs to be treated with care, as much as a child's mind needs to be treated with care. At such a small age, the mind of the children is not prepared to take the correct inference from the historical events, and introducing this subject just for the sake of memorizing important dates stands futile in the current times. Thank you.
Thank you, Jagriti. I'm just glad that you're not an advisor to the government, because after listening to you, they might start wondering whether we should study history at all in entirety. Our next speaker will be speaking for the motion. Let me invite Archana KS. Archana, the floor is yours.
Good evening all, I'm Archana. A famous proverb says, never forget your past because it's your best teacher. The best teacher should enter our lives as early as possible, isn't it? History is just a fascinating subject. It revolves around our ancestors. It gives us deep insight to rise and fall of various kingdoms. It allows us to understand our race in a better way. Living in a country with the biggest cultural diversity and various traditions, all these can be understood and passed through future generations through history only. Let's take an example. Never to be forgotten that current situation, like the economic depression during 1936. COVID pandemic might be a history lesson in the upcoming decades. Young kids learn about how much of awareness is spread. Whatever you become, how much ever science you learn, how your values are evident. History not only allows you to explore your imagination, but also teaches you how much of life lessons. It showcases the courage, the furence of the kings, the commitment of the people, loyalty of the soldiers, cowardness of some leaders, bravery of women, spirit of nationalism, deep involvement in bhakti. So how can a student not gain life lessons? In fact, lessons about directors are crisp and sharp telling you the consequences of the wrong use of power. In today's fast growing world, when a kid can use gadgets, he can learn history too. At this point, we cannot forget about the Indian freedom fight. From Salt Satyagraha to Montesian movement, how crucial these events are. Leaders like Mahatma, Rani Lakshmibai, Bharadiyar, Muthulakshmi Reddy are the reasons for our independent, healthy social. Living today, the freedom we breathe owe to struggles of many. How eminent it is to enlighten the young kids about the reason for our dignitary life today. I feel learning about these innovations in such predatory acts still be developing country. It insists huge patriotism and responsibility towards our land. So I'm sure the only reason against the notion is it has to be memorized. Come on, guys. It is easy when you can jump into the deep era and walk with the characters, and young children are the best at the imagination. History is a collection of real stories, and I am right, and I am sure stories are the best for young ones. So, in a nutshell, it's confirmed that personal values and social well-beings are taught by history. So it is obvious to learn from Standard 1. Thank you.
Thank you, Archana. Thank you. Our last speaker, and somebody who's going to be again talking for the motion, let me invite Kai Jun Divakar to give us his reasons why he believes history should be taught from grade 1.
The more you know about the past, the better prepared you are for the future. Ladies and gentlemen, I stand firmly for the motion and would like to present 4 reasons why Indian history should be a compulsory core subject at primary school. My definition of Indian history goes way beyond the 5,000 to 10,000 year mark. Our land is the connecting link of human migration. From Africa to Polynesia, we hosted everyone who came here with honor and dignity. Indian history can help young students attain national pride. Did you know that the Indus Valley civilization invented flushing toilets and litter bins? This should make us Indians proud of our history. I know it took us a long time to provide toilets for everyone, and littering is still a problem. Understanding the struggle that our forefathers went through will make every primary student patriotic with a strong sense of belonging. Learning Indian history will make young children better global citizens. Indian history can teach values like resilience, hard work, kindness, bravery, and imagination. Our history is rich with moral philosophies of karma, kindness, hospitality, and even sustainability. The ancient saying, Vasudeva Kudumbagam, the notion of one big global family, is still relevant. Although China gave us corona, India is providing the world with vaccines. We can learn values of global citizenship from a young age in our Indian history classes. Learning Indian history will help children to understand how people and societies work. We can look back, analyze, and make sense of how societies functioned and evolved. The other day, I was playing Minecraft during online class. My grandfather saw that and, naturally, he scolded me. He told me that he had to walk 4 kilometers to school every morning. I felt sorry for him, but I told him my history teacher was using Minecraft to teach us about the Indus Valley civilization. Now, my grandfather is also playing Minecraft. My point here is we can still draw inferences from past to build a better society for tomorrow. As the saying goes, the foundation of a good society lies in the understanding of their own history. Learning Indian history can help students to develop a new appreciation for everything. Primary school children should be taught how to appreciate our traditional art, sports, classical music, Vedic maths, astronomy, and architecture. Learning history is an act of preserving our culture for future generations to appreciate. Developing such appreciation for the past will make young children cherish our cultural and historical richness. Let me conclude. By learning Indian history, primary students will become more patriotic, better global citizens, understand how societies evolved, develop a new appreciation for everything, gain moral values, and get to play Minecraft during lessons. That is why Indian history must be a compulsory core subject from primary school onwards. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kai. You've also made me want to dig out Minecraft and try my hand at it again. Our final speaker who will be going against the motion, let me invite Ananya Raut. Ananya, on the ding, your turn to speak.
Why study history? Why is history one of the required course subjects in schools? Personally, I think history should not be one of the required subjects in schools because it is completely useless. Most people memorize dates, names, and facts when they study history. This information is not useful in everyday life or for the future. For this reason, it makes learning history a waste of time because events can also be interpreted in a different way, which makes what we learn history is less vulnerable. Good evening to one and all and present over here in the inter-school virtual debate competition and my worthy opponents. I, Ananya Raut, Standard 6, DV Public School, Unit 8, standing before you to tell an argument against the topic.
Indian history should be a compulsory course subject from the first grade. First of all, history is very boring. Studying all the facts of battles and other things is just boring. Secondly, the history we learn doesn't connect with this saying. Learning history helps us understand the past, in turn, helps us understand our present. What effect will studying the birth date of presidents, date of battles, how many people were killed, etc., will help us to know about our present or future? History is not an important subject because it is too difficult for students in school. Because in history, we have to write wrong answers and students cannot write more answers or can read it. Really abstract to make half-baked truths as history a compulsory core subject. Maybe the thinkers and intellectuals who have designed these noble thoughts have gone weird or bent on dragging Indians back to the Paleolithic age, whereas the archaeologists are still wondering about the authenticity of our great epics Ramayana and Mahabharata. Some patriotic leaders have already made this as our benchmarks, with conflicts becoming deeper and deeper, our suspense getting larger. The cause of disappearance of Mohenjo-daro and Harappa is still creating confusing ripples in the minds of historians. When SpaceX has marched ahead beneath the globe for conquest of other galaxies, are we stuck on reverting back to Mesopotamian era? Even the most brilliant mind have failed to conclude the sea path of Ram Setu, while American satellites have concluded it to be born out of fossils. Conflicts and confusions are taking birth on everyday basis regarding historical facts, authenticity, and actual. While 7 years back, Savarkar was christened as a traitor, nowadays he is hailed as a hero. The same is repeated for Godse too. Imagine the depth of confusion it will create. While other countries in the world have either included or have been trying to conclude subjects like artificial intelligence, robotics, coding, etc. as core subjects, are we just moving backwards? A fact that India never got an offer of UN seat can never be changed for political gain. Disadvantage of history. Number one, written histories may not be real. Number two, many ancient histories and their evidences are buried and forgotten. In view of all the above, I'd like to conclude my debate by saying that I'm strictly against the topic, as getting history as a core subject will not only pull back our country's development but will also pollute the mind of our students who are christened as the backbone of our country. Thank you and have a great evening.
Thank you, Ananya. If I had to find a word to describe that, I would use vociferous. Brilliant. Thank you very much. I'm going to give all of you a big round of applause. I know you can't hear it very well because we're on Zoom, but Seema and I are clapping our hearts out. I think that was really great. I think you guys have done some fabulous research and you guys are great speakers. But what we're going to do is we're going to move into the rebuttal round, right? You have the option of not making a rebuttal, but if I were you, I would use that time because, well, it always counts to mount a good defense. We're going to follow the same order that we just came in, and everybody gets 2 minutes on the clock to make a rebuttal. You can do two things. You can name the person whom you're objecting to or asking a question of, or you can also choose not to name them and call them your friend, your co-debater, or my friend from across the border. Well, you know, anything works. Well, if you guys are good to go, let's get started with our rebuttal round.
Abhinav and Anya, both of them said both of them said that history is about remembering dates. History is not only about remembering date, it provides us a case study for the future. Another point that Abhinav said was that the way the writers write it is old enough. Like, it is not a fashion to quote old enough. That is changing after every decade and accepted by the new generation. History is, it's not like the same. History is, so another point that Anya said, that history is very boring. Look, there are many movies made on history, like The Legend of Bhagat Singh. Haven't we seen kids watching those movies? That's also history. History can be made interesting, but if you want history to be interesting, then actually make it interesting. History is not a boring subject. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you so much, Shloka. That was short and sweet, but you also managed to pull out two of your friends. Shugal, may I invite you now to make your rebuttal?
Yes, sir. Well, sir, a couple of things that some of my opponents said, I really disagree with them. Having exams when people are really young, this might cause them to backfire. This might make them think that history is just about getting pass marks and managing to move on to the next level. And another thing, yes, we do learn a lot of vocabulary. A lot of words that were used in the past aren't used now. But really, is there any point in learning old English words? Nobody is going to use those words in real life except for, say, historical dramas or things like that. Those things aren't going to be used. Also, things like the Veds and Puranas, which Khai I think said, which it's really no point. Are those history? No, those are just mythological things. If we learn those, then we are really turning children against the secularity of our constitution. Instead, history should really focus on things which have actually happened. And also, history doesn't really cure any diseases. I mean, how can learning about the past cure a disease that you have in the present? Think about it. Also, history isn't the only way to learn about cultures. Today, if you go on the internet, even just chatting with people online helps you to know about other people's cultures. Globalization is one of the easiest way to get to know other people's cultures. Why should we learn about the history of other people's cultures? Also, if you think about it, history does use a lot of imagination, but in young students they really don't know how to control their imagination. Plus, the history that we teach them, if we indeed really teach them, will be really simplified. So what if in their simplification they want answers to some questions and they really don't get the response from the adults around them? They'll think of answers on their own, and these misconceptions can actually remain in their mind even when they become older. So yeah, thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Shugal. I know at least 3 union ministers who disagree with you about history and solving diseases in the future. But let me move on to Anusha. Anusha, would you like to make a rebuttal?
Yeah. So for the exam point that was told, let me tell you that exam is not a stress when you teach it in the form of stories. When you teach it in the form of interesting stories, they won't be bored anymore. And we do need historians for the development of the nation. And it is very important. Let me explain. Why are the other subjects, like what is the use of learning history and how does it cure diseases? Yeah, because the historians are the ones, the old age people, they were the ones who created the history, who found out about all of these diseases and the cures. If we learn about that, it will be easy for us to find the medicines. That's the simple point. And it should really be given importance. I mean, arts is the subject that is basically looked down upon, which shouldn't be what it is like today. So I would just like to conclude by saying that history should be a core subject from standard 1, where it can be taught interesting where the child or the children are curious at a young age. It shouldn't be given less importance because it is not of any less importance. Thank you.
Thank you, Anusha. We went from furious to curious with that. Abhinav Menon, it is your turn. The floor is yours.
I applaud the proposition for their arguments to support the motion, but I would like to put forth my thoughts on the subject. Historians have argued about the cyclical nature of history. So would it be so bad if history repeated itself? Isn't that how information and ideas flow through the generations? Secondly, perceptions regarding arts and its inferiority are better fought outside the classrooms of 5-year-olds. Early education classes should remain spaces for acquiring life skills and interacting with the environment, not to memorize insignificant dates. Thank you.
Thank you, Abhinav. Let me now call on Teniyat. Teniyat, your rebuttal, please, on the ding.
With due respect to my friends who spoke against the motion, I have my opinion. It should be competency based. History is not about wars and memorizing events. It's about our civilization and culture. This can be made interesting by holding fancy dress competitions, narrating stories. It can be made interesting by using visual and audio aids. It can be introduced in the form of voting of their class monitors and teaching significance of national holidays, identifying landmarks and monuments. They can be the children can be taught patriotic songs. By Ayurveda, we can also increase our immunity, and Ayurveda is also one of the part of history. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya. That was short and sweet, but extremely effective. Jagriti, may I now invite you to give your rebuttal?
Yes, sir. So I would like to oppose my worthy opponents by a couple of facts. First of all, why do we need to study history? Nowadays, science and technology are of prime importance. We will get nothing by digging and like finding about more about past, and like we will get nothing. So let's face the truth, and let's face the fact that science and technology are more of prime importance. The second which I want to speak is like nowadays the pedagogy and curriculum does not help the child understand history. The children start cramming and memorizing the dates and all of the past like the events which have happened. They start cramming and they do not like try to understand. This is all because of the pedagogy and the curriculum. The third point which I want to speak is that history also has some beautiful aspects and some negative aspects, and it is also said that negativity impacts more than positivity in your minds. So like as I said earlier, the children who are in first grade, they have a very highly malleable mind. So actually they will see more of the negative aspects rather than the positive. So that's all what I want to speak. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jagriti. Archana, may I now invite you to make your comments?
The point I oppose are history is bold and spontaneous. It is not acceptable. It is actually makes you bold and strong and spontaneous. Why is it having the number of people involved? The impact of a situation can be understood only when the number of people involved are known. People may have replaced the nearest galaxies, but still we have the medicinal practices, foods from the historians. Today, Ayurveda and traditional medicines are the trend. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now I'm going to invite my friend who made me think of Minecraft, Kaijun Divakar. Would you like to give us your rebuttal, please?
I have 2 points to make here, and I'm sorry to hear that Shrugal, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, finds stories of history and past boring. I think that you have a very boring history teacher. Now, you can come to my school. We learn history through Minecraft. And the other point is, most of the speakers against the motion had a problem with the word compulsory. Now, let me tell you why it should be compulsory. If it is not compulsory, there is a chance that history will not be taken seriously, and we will not get a standardized curriculum. Just like maths, science, or languages, we need a compulsory introduction to Indian history, art, and culture from primary school. India is one of the incredible places where historical events has created a unique but diverse place, which millions and millions of people travel to experience. Let us learn it from primary one onwards. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Minecraft. Ananya, could I invite you to make the final rebuttal of the evening?
As Shloka said that I only told that the dates are very boring because most people memorize dates, name of facts from the study history. This will not help us in our future or in our present. For this reason, it makes learning history a waste of time because events can be interpreted in a different way, which makes what we learn in history less valuable. And also, written histories may not be real because many histories are written by selfish people and many histories are hidden. And also, Anusha said that history helps us in increasing our vocabulary. And I would like to say that how can history helps us in increasing our vocabulary? Because English is a subject which helps us in increasing our vocabulary, not history. And as my opponents were saying that in history we learn our past mistakes which help
to make our future better. But if it should have happened, then we'd have learned much things from our past, and India would be one of the most developed country in the world. But we've not learned anything from our past. Instead, we are moving backwards instead of going ahead. So, thank you.
Thank you so much, Ananya. And I'm also going to give everybody a round of applause, and I'm going to give you a standing ovation. This is my version of the Zoom standing ovation. Congratulations, everybody. I think that was absolutely fabulous. Paulomi, you want to say a few words to the kids about how they did?
I am actually very shocked pleasantly with the amount of knowledge that they have. While listening to them, I think I was thinking about what I was doing at their age. I honestly have no idea, but I'm sure that I did not know as much as they do. It's quite commendable. I just wish they keep doing things like that, and there's no stopping them.
More power to them. Thank you, Paulomi. Purnima, if you'd like to say a few words to the kids about how they did.
I think the feeling that Paulomi and I share right now is very mutual. It's like I'm also quite stunned with such poignant thoughts and such eloquency and the confidence that they come with. I think it's really baffling. It's really nice to be a part of this entire initiative. Thank you.
So Purnima and Paulomi, who's going to be calling out our three winners for the day?
I think for the finest point, we chose Tainiyat Nabi.
Tainiyat, congratulations. You made the finest point. Congratulations.
For Counter-Strike, we both chose Shrugal Bhattacharjee.
Shrugal, congratulations. Best rebuttal goes to you.
And for lighter side, we were all quite impressed. Abhinav Binay Menon.
Congratulations, Abhinav. I'd like to tell all three of you that you won yourselves vouchers worth ₹1,000 from our gift partner Link Pens. We will send it to you shortly, and you can go online from the safety of your home and you can buy stationery to your heart's content, and you can scribble away in debates henceforth. Thank you very much, guys, for being with us. Thank you very much, Paulomi. Thank you very much, Purnima, for being a part of this. I think all of you guys are fabulous, and I think you've got great futures ahead. Thank you very much, guys. Have a great time and stay safe. Remember, you can vote for your favorite debater right here at www.edexlive.com/debate. Remember, every vote counts. Our voting lines are open for 48 hours, so get voting right now. This debate was brought to you by the Hindustan Institute of Technology and Sciences and MEIL. Every kid has a great story to tell. Have one? Well, we're listening. Send your best story to the New Indian Express's Bookworm Junior Summer Stories Contest, and you could just end up becoming an author over the summer. What are you waiting for? Get writing.